My name is Patty Murray. I will be your host for today's Food Safety Tech webinar, the ROI of implementing best practices and enabling technologies for food safety and quality assurance, featuring Jerry Roberts, Executive Consultant, International Product Safety Consultants, and Barbara Levin, Senior Vice President and co-founder of Safety Chain Software, who is our sponsor for today's event. Let me tell you about our speakers. As an executive leader in the consumer packaged goods industry, Jerry Roberts has extensive experience providing strategic and technical business solutions that impacts a company's financial bottom line by improving operational efficiencies and ROI. He has positions in analytical research, quality management, food safety, raw materials, and supplier management in pharmaceutical, food, and beverage Fortune 500 companies. Jerry is a graduate of the City College, City University, New York, and he is a member of the Food Science and Nutrition Advisory Board, Tuskegee University in Alabama. For 25 years, Barbara Levin has worked with companies in many industries to increase awareness of how technology innovations support strategic business strategies. She joined Safety Chain in 2011 to bring her passion to the food and beverage industry and has become a frequent author and speaker on the strategic use of technology to meet FSQ compliance and efficiencies at all points in the food supply chain. After our speakers give their presentation, we'll have the opportunity to ask them questions during a special Q&A session moderated by Rick Byros, President and Publisher of Food Safety Tech. Now I'll turn things over to Rick to begin today's webinar. Rick?
Howdy, and I just wanted to extend a warm welcome to everyone in our audience. We're excited about this presentation. We've got two great speakers today with some very valuable information. And the format of the program is, as Patty had indicated, that Jerry's going to do the first presentation and followed up by a presentation by Barbara. Then we'll get into the Q&A. The format of today's presentations, we're going to cover issues of concept introduction, a return on investment factor, the non-conformance costs, technology-enabled integrated food safety and quality assurance governance process, technology software investments. We're going to review a business case, opportunities for hard dollar savings, and then we'll get into the Q&A. So we've got a great lineup planned for today, and not delay it any further, I'd like to turn things over to Jerry.
Thank you. And
if you click your mouse once.
Yep. Okay, I've clicked my mouse.
And your arrow keys.
Getting anything, Patty?
Okay, what I can do is I'll take control back and I'll advance the slides for you.
Sure, please. Thank you, Rick. And Patty, we go to the next slide. If we go to the summary slide, I tell you guys what you're going to get out of my part of the presentation. And what I intend to give you is that in looking at the ROI and quality, that model for the cost of quality, which include the process plus integration cost model, really an effective way to determine your food safety and quality non-conformance within your supply chain, which when mitigate against those will contribute to the supply chain bottom line. One of the challenges we'll talk about is that most accounting systems within companies today, they are not designed to capture food safety and quality failure costs across the supply chain. Very little of it is being captured, and most of them are just the low visibility or soft costs internally. Most of those costs are designed in the accounting system to be associated with either distribution or manufacturing and such. One of the things we're going to highlight, and Patty's going to talk more about it, is technology being enabling to really capture true integrated food safety and quality ROI by linking your processes and managing your processes with technology. So as I said before, one of my favorite comments is from Rob Robin, who was at the time with Optimized Magazine. He's now with Amazon, and he said, "Companies no longer compete; supply chains do compete." Really quite true, because if you look at some of the mergers, acquisitions, partnerships that are going along these days with large companies, they really are not buying products per se. They're really buying supply chain efficiencies, either along distributions, somewhere where they can minimize their cost across supply chains. For example, a common one I'll use is Kraft that bought a chocolate company in Europe mainly to get access to supply chain. And then, as you look around the experts, as people analyze what's been going on in food safety and quality and the cost of that lately, if you look at what expert X estimates, suggests is that poor food safety and quality performance, that is producing and detecting and looking at effects and correcting defects, the food industry anywhere from 15 to 30% of gross annual sales. That's a large amount of money. Again, most of it is not captured a quality of food safety defect. And as I said before, but the accounting process is not designed to do that. And technology is a very powerful enabler to begin to start to facilitate some of those efficiencies across the supply chain. Share with you a couple of some of the cost models for quality. Now, before we could start talking about the cost of really the ROI on quality, which is how to avoid defects, deficiencies, and capture the cost of those in the system, we first have a true sense of how to measure true quality, that is the total cost of quality and food safety. There are a number of models that exist out there, and I just listed them. For example, the model that you have the some of the generic model. The first one is the prevention, appraisal, and failure model. And that looks at what does it cost you to set up systems and programs to prevent failures, defects, and nonconformances, and how you then detect and look for where those the defects and lack of compliance take place, and then the cost of failures are around them. If you look at that and you're looking at saying, well, how do I measure that? Well, you could look at developing metrics that will eventually end up to something like the cost of manufacturing, quality as a percent of manufacturing cost. So when you look at the cost of prevention, the cost of appraisal, anything to do with failure cost, when that is a percentage of your true manufacturing cost, that model could give you your trust of quality. There's cost B, who has the simplest of all, probably conformance and non-conformance. And one of the ways you could measure it is, what does it cost me for true quality for setting up my programs and systems so that I can conform with what needs to be conformed with regulatory, my standards, and everything else, plus my non-conformance, that is when I have defects in the system. One way to determine that is you could look at a percent of revenue. Whatever the revenue base is of the company and how much you're costing you for protecting the brand as well as in the conformance and non-conformance areas, that gave you a percent of revenue. That's another way of a metric to look at it. The opportunity and an intangible cost model, which talks about prevention, appraisal, failures, and the opportunity. And again, look at all those elements will give you a true cost of quality going, as you measure them across your supply chain. There's cost models. And cost models are simple done with regards to conformance and non-conformance. And then the ABC models, which are the ABC models of value add and non-value add. In other words, what I'm doing in my quality and food safety systems. The things that I'm doing are value added to my operations and the products my company make. Am I under, am I over engineering? And they're non-value add. Am I testing too much? Or do I have programs that really don't contribute to any great value for the company? So that when you want to look at the ABC model, You could say it says it's really activity-based. You know, if you look at every activity associated with food safety and quality across the supply chain, and every activity that led to a failure can tie back to food safety and quality, what's the total cost of that? And so you could look at the activity-based model across, relative to the entire supply chain model. And then there's the IPSC model, which is the International Product Safety Consultants model, which talks about appraisals plus integration equal prevention. So in other words, again, you're looking at, say, how do I go about making sure I have programs where I can detect what's creating a problem, plus having a program, a food safety and quality integrated program that's workable, that can detect and defect in the system, and that I'll get the level of prevention I need. What does that cost me? Really, what do I then need to have totally? So all those things do give you a sense of total cost. And then once you know your total cost, and you can break out your preventative cost and your appraisal cost, you can go ahead and start determining your true contribution for non-conformances. This next slide just shows what we talk about integration is. This is a food safety integrated program. Prevent defects or failures in your system. And if you look at it, you'll see it takes into account GMP, sanitation, regulatory quality, and HACCP across your supply chain, across your manufacturing supply chain. So you could say that every one of those elements are being integrated from, you could say, farm to fork, or from your supplier to your consumer. And critical to it is a feedback mechanism. You want to be able to have every element be fed back into the system, very transparent, so that you can create improvements, analyze the system, ties efficiency against processes, products, productivity, performance, and profit. So when you're talking about productivity, is it really creating a benefit, or is it saving on one end, but costing you enormously on the other end? So let's a little bit more in taking apart and looking at the factors that are going to make up total quality, so we can begin to determine the ROI and quality. Okay? So if you look, we say that food safety and quality cost, the total cost, the cost of non-conformance, meaning that it costs you for products that you make that do not meet standards, that do not meet regulatory, but failures, defects, plus investment costs. And when non-conformance costs, we're talking about internal costs, that is cost pre-release product, plus external costs, meaning cost after release. So when non-conforming costs are conforming attributes in your product, you could either retain it internally and correct it, or if it gets out, there's a whole different aspect to it. The other part that goes into total quality cost will be the investment cost, which are the preventative costs. And the preventative costs are, what do I need to do, or what have I done, what programs do I have in place to avoid mistakes? And result costs, as I said before, is simply what I need to do when looking to find mistakes and to avoid mistakes getting out of the system. The top cost, the combination of total cost. So let's go a little deeper and start looking at investment cost. Say investment costs are the preventative costs. What do I need to do to prevent mistakes? There we're talking about your integrated programs, your food safety and quality policies, programs and your requirements, you're stating your requirements. In other words, especially if you have a company that's operating globally, materials, manufacturing products, distributing products on a global level, it's very important to make sure that you have those policies, programs, and requirements be standardized, so that where you buy material, whomever you buy that material from, they are operating to the same standard. With that, you're likely going to have variability in your system and run into some issues. Product design, that's also the preventative cost. What does it take to design a good product, robust product? And where the quality needs to fit in. I believe that quality needs to be right up front once they start designing products, so they can build the quality and the food safety in. If you're not equipment, how does the equipment need to be designed from a hygienic and sanitation standpoint? And validation. Have you validated your process? When you design the product, can you validate and make sure that the critical elements of the product, the critical attributes, are validated, and they can reproduce it from time to time and measure it? And then product reviews. In other words, you want to make sure if you're doing iHut, if you're getting market tests going, all those things to make sure that quality is built in so that you're not violating any regulatory, any sort of food safety or quality standards. And then personnel training for your, across your supply chain. And again, technology that will help pull it all together. So that's some elements of preventative cost. And the absolute cost, you're talking about testing. In other words, I'm looking to make sure that my requirements, my standards, the effectiveness of my programs are there. So I'm looking at testing as to make sure that I am within standards. Process verification. I validated my process, so now verify that the process is under control. And then audits, whether it be product audits from the marketplace, will be audits of your suppliers, of your manufacturing facilities, of your distribution system. You look at the different audits. And the key part, which will give you a lot of information, will be data analysis and interpretation, again, where technology comes in. Further on, we look at what goes into non-conformance of failure cost. See, there are two aspects. There are internal costs, which is pre-release costs, what most people call the soft cost, which is primarily where costs are captured, but most of what captured, they are not ascribed to failures. I do not see how quality can really make a big benefit or a big dent, and that escapes the true cost of the quality. And then the external cost. On the side, you have both a controllable and a non-controllable cost. So when we look at internal cost, we say controllable cost falls into rework. Why do we have rework? Is it because of specifications are not well designed? Is it we expecting the system to something that is not capable of? Retesting. What's in the retesting? Why are we retesting? Is it because our testing procedures and protocols are not appropriate? And so they're up to quality standards? Are people properly trained? And then product downgrade. You have product that don't meet the standards, so now you're going to either sell it at a secondary market, so you're getting top dollars for it. Then product destruction. How many times have you manufactured products, and I'm sure all of us in the business have, and in the product that you manufacture, you realize, look, it's going to damage the brand if we ship it, so we got to destroy it. Material destruction. Most times when we're looking to make decisions, we either have inaccurate or we have data, availability to data at a very late stage. It's too late to do the things we really need to do. We either have to downgrade that product or we have to destroy it. Non-controllable costs are those things that are outside of our control. And I know some people say, well, what could be a non-controllable quality and food safety cost? Well, if you are in the agricultural business and you're buying agricultural materials, buying certain natural flavors from plant extract, or like vanilla beans, or the case may be, buying wheat, or you buying certain products that you're bringing in that are agricultural. We know that natural climatic conditions and certain biological factors may have an impact regards to the composition. For example, protein content may be low, or there may be more of shaft in wheat than you necessarily need to have, or the case may be. Those are variable costs. How do they impact? They could impact costs because they may have to use more of the material to really get the nutritious level or to get the quality of standards that you want. So those are some examples of non-controllable costs. External side, that means when the product is released and it's no longer within your control, then you could have product recalls. Product recalls are when you have product in the marketplace that didn't conform. You look at the market withdrawal, color complaints, product expiration that you got to pull off the shelf because it's not well managed. Maybe you didn't practice FIFO, or the case may be regulatory penalties for one reason or the other, and inaccurate and late data, especially when you're at market withdrawal, are you looking at product recalls. Non-controllable would be consumer perception. What's consumer perception are in cases where you have a report comes out on a material or a certain product that you involve but whatever the issue is does not really affect you. Now you get implicated, your product gets implicated. Case in point was HVPs coming out of Asia about 2-3 years ago, where there were some issues with HVP. Most people didn't buy HVP from Asia, but the moment people heard about it, they wanted to know how your products have HVP and what's happening. So those are some of the non-controllable costs. And when you could capture those effectively, when we look at doing them, you can really begin to address quality conformities and the cost of non-conformance. To move to a model that can be used and to determine the true cost of quality and the true cost of non-conformance, which, when mitigated, can go directly to the bottom line. This is a model that was developed very early by Deming, is the one who used that model in Japan. That model has been used in the software industry, in the high-tech industry, and very little have been done to integrate it into the consumer products like the food industry. The model is based on looking at, say, there are 3 segments. There is non-conformance at what we call the design or the development phase of a product. The one means that if you look at it, it's the lowest level of defect of cost to correcting a defect. And the other cost goes to, say, if you catch it on your manufacturing side, then the cost goes up by tenfold. And catch it at the post-release phase, then the cost goes up by 100-fold. So in other words, it's saying that the least you can capture defect or failure or non-compliance and non-conformance in your system, at least it will cost you to meet it. And in order to do that, you're going to have certain fundamental aspects and things in place. So the model assumes the earliest level, it will cost you the minimal of one-fold one. At the second level, if it gets downstream, then it goes up by 10 times, and then at the next level, it goes up by 100 times. So let's go to the model. This model is an assumption. Now, let me just say that this is going to vary from company to company, and that's why it's important to have metrics set up in your system. It's important to have you capturing the cost so you can know exactly to calculate the true cost for you. So it makes an assumption that, let's say, for example, on a standard basis, you have 125 non-conformances a year across your system. And that if you were to have that and you could say a design phase and a development phase, let's say you capture 80% of those so that you can correct them before they get out. And those defects could be things like, did you have the ingredient that, say, because you caught an ingredient that probably the activity was too high for what you wanted to do and for the type of product you wanted to make. You caught a design in your equipment which says that you would not be able to clean appropriately, so that you will have probably legs in there, or you would have fouling, which would create a problem for your product and a micro issue going forward. Or your part size weren't the right size, so that if you're looking at fill rates and fill control, you may have an issue, or your viscosity wasn't there, whatever that may be on the line. A number of areas that you can catch. So say you catch it at the development design phase. And let's say that the standard cost is $100 to resolve every failure, every defect and non-conformance that you find. Again, that's an assumption. We're going to $100 assumption all the way through the supply chain. Now, for you and your various businesses, it will be different, because the cost of labor, the cost of material, the cost of running your equipment will be different. So you will have to look at all those costs and see what it is. But for simplicity, I'm in this assumption here. Let's say 80%, so 125 defects. Each defect is going to cost you $100 to fix or to correct. And so in the first case here, we say we have minimal quality, which in the scheme of things, let's say it's negligible, so it costs you $0, or probably minimal dollars. The 80% of the 125, you have 100 defects that you have caught at the developmental stage. That means that you didn't get into manufacturing, you didn't get into commercialization. So at the 100 defects at $100 is $10,000. So for $10,000, you corrected those defects. Now, other 20 defects down the supply chain, you have minimal quality, and most likely with minimal quality, you're not going to catch any of the other 25 defects. You catch the other 25 defects. So it costs you. So your cost of quality is zero. Release that product, and it gets out into the marketplace, and you start having recalls, returns, have to do with recalls. The 25 at $100 factor of 100, because now we see at every stage it's a tenfold increase. All of a sudden, at the post-release stage, you're now costing you $250,000. Your total cost now for quality, which is the effective product, because that's all you got, and no quality, a minimal quality, is $260,000. Now, as I said before, for some of you, the number will be much, much higher because the cost of correcting defects will be a lot higher. Everybody has some degree of quality. You have to figure that out. Right now, let's say for the sake of this model, that zero quality, total cost of quality for the resolution, which is the current defects, that is where you're finding it. If you capture all the costs, it's $260,000. If you go to a model where you do have adequate quality, adequate food safety and quality in place, you still have the same 125 non-conformances. It is captured at the developmental stage. That cost stays the same. It's $10,000. Now, quality, you do have 8 of the 25 that's left being caught at the manufacturing a pre-release stage. 100 times the 10. That itself is going to cost you $20,000, and the type that post-release is $50,000. The thing about the manufacturing pre-release stage is that most companies do not track those costs as cost of quality or cost of food safety. They usually put them in as probably yield values, and never would do the failure mode analysis to really find out what caused me to have this defect in the first place. So the cost of quality do not get captured. And in some cases, it's not even captured as yield. It's just like, well, that's waste. And it cannot emphasize how put measures and metrics and using technology to facilitate the capture and analysis and measurement of those data is a valuable tool in you capturing the true cost. Now, the assumption that you had some modicum of quality, and I just picked the number $100,000, then total cost of which is correcting any defect at the development design phase, correcting any defect at the manufacturing phase, and the post-release phase, that's $80,000, plus your $100,000 for quality, that's $180,000 of total quality cost to you right away. Now, if you remember in the previous slide where we had no quality, the total cost was $260,000. So go to the next slide and we begin to look at what's going on. We see that the cost of resolving non-conformances and failures with inadequate quality is $260,000. And the cover resolution with adequate quality is $180,000. There is a difference then in savings at $80,000. And then of the $180,000, you have spent $100,000 in quality. In other words, you invested $1,000 in design of your systems, already called prevention, appraisal, and side of that with whatever the programs you have, the food safety and quality programs, your technology and your systems to capture data, testing is efficient, everything else. You have a cost savings based on this model of $80,000 on a return on investment in the first year of $80,000. Now, the great thing about this model is that as you begin to do your failure mode analysis and assign true quality cost, you also could begin to look at what part of your system you need to optimize. And be just overbuilding or underbuilding a system that will give you this level of protection that you need for your operation. The model is a very straightforward model, a very easy model. Once you can capture costs, and you may not be able to start at every cost, but what you have right now, you could start implementing it and inputting it into the model and get a sense of what is costing you and your company in non-conformances. I mean, most people would do quality improvement, food safety improvement, and they don't even calculate the benefit to the company from a dollar benefit standpoint. They tend to present it in a matter of, well, it makes the system better. I'm proposing that you start to quantify the benefit and you start to capture the areas where it's quantified and what the dollar values are. What becomes is, how does one build a system that really truly captures non-conformances, also minimize non-conformances in the manufacturing supply chain system? So, how do you begin to set the framework? You can begin to make returns on investment to the supply chain bottom line. And we call the Integrated Food Safety and Quality Program. If you remember the slide that I showed you earlier, talked about the Integrated Food Safety Program, where we had GMPs and quality. If you take that into account and you look at this inverted triangle, what is that? In building a program, the program should sit on the shoulders of the corporation that you're with, or the organization that you're with. So that its views, its mission, its vision, very, very important to support it. And then you have your executive sponsorship. That means across the supply chain, you want to make sure you have an executive sponsor for every function across the supply chain. Development, manufacturing, distribution, procurement, all need to be part of quality. And you call the Food Safety and Quality Governance Program stakeholders. Start looking at what you're going to need to build that program, including using technology to facilitate it. You need to make sure that everybody is online, and later on you're going to hear all about how to justify and how to sell in your technology needs. So you have executive sponsorship, and there the philosophies will be developed, your strategies will be developed, your rules commitments will get in place. Look at your tactical level, which is where the technical experts of food safety and quality will write up the requirements, the standards, the policies, the programs, so that your executives can sign and approve. And then they would say what you need at every stage in the supply chain. What do I need to qualify and manage a supplier for the materials that we buy? How do we calculate and how do we determine the level of the material that we buy, given where we buy it and who we buy it from? Do we need to make sure that the materials we're bringing in, whether it be packaging and so on, can perform? So things are what you need to build a solid program and to have it be communicated. And then down to the operational level, where you manufacture the product, where you really test it, where you really distribute it, and again, what are the policies and procedures and work levels and work plans that need to be there. The key to making all this work, all this technology work, all these programs work harmoniously together, especially when you have corrective actions to make sure you have a closed loop. That's where a big part of technology plays in, because you can really begin to set up your metrics, capture your data. You have timely information coming to you, especially if you have international suppliers or you have international manufacturers or you are an international company. You have to wait for people in Europe and Asia to get up to ask them a question. You can go online. You can find out what's going on. And you make decisions very rapidly because time is of the essence. And communication, if you look at the left side of the triangle, communication is highly, highly critical, because you want to make sure that as you capture those information and as you get things moving, communicating across the supply chain. It wants to be as seamless as possible. So I'm not going to get into every aspect of the program developed that one needs to develop. Again, you have to be reminded that it needs to be tailored to suit operations. If you're in an operation, don't develop a dry operation program and think it would work. You really make sure that your programs are designed for the operation at a level in which you need it, as well as your technology is designed to facilitate it and the level in which you need it. So in summary, I want you to know that the cost of quality, which is process, meaning conformance, non-conformances, and what's needed for that, plus integration cost, then in the preventative and appraisal cost. It's a way to determine not only your full cost for food safety and quality, but also your cost for non-conformances and food safety and quality non-conformance across the supply chain. The point is that most accounting systems are not designed, well, to capture the food safety and quality cost, the true cost. One of the things I invite you to take on is to do failure mode analysis. Whenever you have a failure in the system, whether it's internal or external, take on doing failure mode analysis, and if people are telling it as it is, you will get at the true cost and the true place where the defect that's driving the defect. And you'll find that a huge amount of it are cost for poor quality and poor food safety systems. I can't stress enough how much in this day and age, given all the regulations and all the consumer demands and pressures that there, and companies need to be lean and mean, that technology can be a welcome friend and an asset towards helping you drive your quality systems, capture your cost, get transparency, read on a timely basis, and have things done in a highly efficient manner, because then you will be able to capture truly what captured today towards your advantage. So the presentation for the moment, and I'll turn it over to Patty.
Thanks so much, Jerry. And we're going to turn things over now to Barbara. Barbara?
To Barbara, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry, for that informative presentation. What we're going to do now is just briefly discuss how implementing enabling technologies can help you achieve the types of ROI, all points along your supply chain that Jerry was discussing. You know, to just kind of recap some of the big picture today, the withdrawals, rejections, and recalls are costing the food industry $7 billion annually. And these aren't just the huge recalls, the very public ones that we all hear about. A lot of this money are customer rejections because the product didn't meet its quality attributes, or disposed product because you aren't able to get test results to take corrective actions in time. But totally, when you start removing goods from shelves, how to replace inventory, lost sales, certainly lawsuits and public relations repair if it gets all the way to the recall stage and somebody becomes ill. This is a lot of money, and it's not just any one person along or company along the supply chain these days. Anyone who touched the product is being held culpable for supply chain issues when it comes to compliance and the public health. This includes the growers, the suppliers, the manufacturers, the distributors, the retailers and services sellers, lab auditors, anyone who touched it. How do we deal with all of this? Food safety and quality assurance complexities are not going to become easier. They're growing. They're going to become more complex. But I know very many FSQA departments that are growing. So everybody now has more challenges and are trying to figure out how to do more with less. Basically trying to figure out, how do I meet my regulatory, my non-regulatory, and my customer requirements while getting product out on time, while remaining competitive, and while remaining profitable. And now more and more, the food and beverage industry is looking towards technology investments. Now, technology isn't new in this industry. Many companies in this industry have already invested in technology. A lot of those technologies tend to be around manufacturing and logistics and getting things from point A to point B. Solutions like supply chain and distribution and procurement solutions. And why were you able to get funding for these investments? Because they save time, and they save money, and they created efficiencies. Well, a lot of the emerging technologies in the food and beverage industry today are focused more around food safety and quality assurance. These tend to fall into two categories: real-time prevention to keep non-compliant goods from coming in or going out in the first place. Then, of course, ability to track and trace, to have a fast reaction to issues if they've already left the building, so to speak. Now, these technologies have the same business case. They save time, they save money, and they create efficiencies that lead to compliance. And we'll go over the major categories of these in just a moment. Excuse me. We're going to use today is a real-time prevention solution called safety chain management. The underlying concept of safety chain management is that it's a single solution to help enforce in real time safety and quality compliance at every point in your supply chain, including inbound supplies and raw materials, production safety and quality requirements, and of course all the compliance that's associated with your customer-driven specifications for your outbound finished goods. 5 key concepts to preventative type of food safety and quality technologies. One is that safety quality data test results are collected in real time from suppliers everywhere around the globe, analyzed to all of your regulatory, non-regulatory, and customer specifications and programs in real time. If everything passes, it can go to the next point in the chain. Where there's an issue that requires a corrective action or alerts or notifications out to the key stakeholders so that you can have immediate corrective actions. Because this information is time and date stamped, you then have a central repository of data for performance and trending. So that's kind of a very big picture of one of the types of food safety and quality assurance that has a hard dollar return on investment business case. So let's look at some of the ROI opportunities. This picture here really kind of summarizes some of what Jerry was speaking about, that the sooner that you can catch issues with compliance, whether it's a quality or safety issue, the less it's going to cost. And the later that you find it, all the way to the point of experiencing a withdrawal, a rejection, or recall, the more money it's going to cost. So preventative measures are very important because the sooner you catch it, keep it leaving the building, the less it's going to cost you. So there are 4 key areas where you've got real hard dollar return on investment opportunities with these types of emerging technologies. The first and most obvious is time and labor. For the supplier compliance, we've spoken to people who have operations where it can take many hours and sometimes a matter of days to go through all of the information and test results that are coming in from suppliers. In some cases, there's risk of product contamination. In other cases, sales is being slowed down because product is on hold and it's sitting until it can go to the next point in the chain. But studies show that fewer than 5% of all of these test results actually require action. So operations are really being slowed down. When getting your test results in real time, all the COAs can automatically be generated, and then the FSQA staff can just work on those 2 or 3 out of every 100 that required action. So that's fewer people, it's significantly fewer hours, and you're also speeding throughput. Readiness is one of the areas in which I've heard people in the industry tell me that can really bring their departments to its knees. If you take out all the government audits, customer audits, if you're a large company, you could have 1 or 2 audits per month. Because you now have a central repository of time and date stamped data that is unalterable, and you have from every point from inbound during production outbound, you can be ready on demand. And again, without all of the disruption to your operations, and certainly without all of the people hours it takes to get ready for an audit. Materials and yields is another area where there's a huge area or opportunity for return on investment. When you have real-time analysis and real-time alerts, you can help prevent contaminated product from going into production. This is going to reduce the reworking and the retesting, and it's going to help you catch issues before they reach, for example, critical limits. So this is going to help speed throughput, avoid spoilage, and make sure that you're not wasting product. If you look at compliance risk mitigation, again, if you're going for preventative measures, you can really help keep non-compliant materials and supplies from coming in and help prevent non-compliant finished goods from going out. If we look at the chart again, the faster, the more cost-effective it is. Replacing the feed is better than the proverb having to pull the chickens off of the shelf. And because there's transparency with all of the information, it can shorten hold times and minimize customer rejections on the other end because, depending on your level of transparency, people are able to see the test results, again, dashboards in real time. What this does is help you have loss prevention, real-time loss of inventory, revenue, customer and consumer confidence, and market value and brand. The last area is reporting and analysis. With this type of FSQA solution, what you really have is that central repository of data so that you can not only be audit ready, but you can look and see which suppliers are providing the highest quality at the best cost. Maybe during the materials and yield phase, you did your own check and found out that although you received a CA, for example, for ground meat that was supposed to be 80-20, and it turned out to be 75. Well, you have to add more expensive meat to get to the right balance. You might have had to rework that meat for a customer where that content was okay. It had to get rid of it if you'd already put somebody's secret ingredients, for example, in there. So any time that you can perhaps realize that you have a credit due, that you can analyze the quality and make sure that you're getting what you're supposed to be getting from your suppliers is going to save you money. Help you understand your highest and lowest risk goods and suppliers so you can have a better focus on your FSQA efforts. It will allow you to have a faster response to customer complaints and benchmark against KPIs. And all of these things have hard dollar return on investment associated with them. Just some areas where you can find hard dollar ROI by your supply chain phase using these types of solutions. Whether it's inbound, and we're talking about supplier document management, corrective actions, COA tracking and validation, to production, like getting information directly from testing equipment so that you can, again, catch issues at the earliest possible time and you can take immediate corrective actions. And all this is done online versus with manual, time-consuming, error-prone processing. You're also able to get information to your customers in real time, which speeds hold and release programs and helps your sales throughput, again, increasing your sales. And with that, I am going to turn it over to you, Rick. And I know we've got a lot of questions, kind of hurried through that, but I wanted to have the opportunity to get Jerry some of these many questions that we see right now. So I hope that was helpful.
Great. Well, Barbara, thank you. Jerry, thank you. Both, I think, were really, really good presentations and really cut to the core of helping food safety and quality assurance people justify not programs that they work within, but also the investments needed to protect their companies and their customers. And it was great presentations. I can tell by the number of questions coming in. And so let's kind of address them right away. And I know, Jerry, you had tried sending out a quick answer to one of these, but I was just hoping that you might expand that a little bit, which the question is what is the typical non-conformance failure cost for a food manufacturer as a percentage of sales or cost of goods sold?
As a scanned the literature, and most of it has gone through experts in tracking cost, quality cost of goods across the food supply chain, especially in food safety. Cost against revenue, the estimates that's seen, depending again on the size of companies, range anywhere from like 15 to 30%. The average is about 20% as a cost of sales when you look at non-conformances for food safety and quality. The cost of goods, if you want to take it against your material that goes into making the product, typically my own personal experience is typically about 5%. In companies I've worked for, which had about a $10 to $12 billion procurement raw material for goods, was about 3 to 5%. So taking 3 to 5% of $10 billion that you could tightly associate with it, that's a lot. And most of it, as I said, are tagged to failure or the ineffectiveness of the food safety and quality program. They're captured somewhere else. Why it's so difficult to make the case. But I think with good metrics, programs, and capturing the data that they can, the case can be made. That has been my experience. And again, it's in the literature. You scan the literature, you'll find some information out there.
Well, those are real dollars. I mean, for an industry that operates on typically razor-thin margins, right, and is a high-volume producer, just about everyone in the food industry could really realize some tremendous savings by having the metrics and data on those non-conformant type of issues. Barbara, do you want to add anything to that on that topic?
I think Jerry did a fabulous job of answering that.
Okay.
Just one thing, Rick. If you look at a new product launch, usually when you have a failure with new product and the product doesn't perform either because of either some physical defect or the flavor wasn't right or some kind of regulatory issue, usually product launches get charged back to the P&L, which goes back into marketing when really it's a quality failure. So if you could begin again to start to capture the true cause and effect failure, that's what you want to go after.
Okay, good. Well, kind of expanding on the same thought, do you find that companies track the failures that they catch during development, or they just correct them?
My experiences, they do not really track the failures, because I've seen from time again over my career that companies will make the same mistake in product development, and they will keep making the same correction, but because it's not tracked and because, again, the costs are captured effectively, they look at it like, well, that's the cost of launching new products. And I think one of the big mistakes that's been made across the industry. If you keep launching products and you're in the business where you're making products where water activity is critical and you keep having spoilage, well, I know, it says that some aspect of your food safety or quality system isn't working. So start from your supplier all the way through to your storage condition and even your transportation and see what's going on. I find that it's not tracked effectively enough to mitigate and capture those costs to the bottom line. It's always treated as a one-off.
And I think that's where technology can really help track every test and every result, whether it's a safety test, whether it's a quality attribute, so that you can go back and you can understand where problems existed and understand how to get around those next time, whether it's using a different supplier or changing your process, or just a matter of getting the information fast enough to take those corrective actions.
That's kind of a paradigm shift in thinking.
Yeah.
Really is right what you're saying, because then to do any kind of a tracking and correlation studies without technology is going to be awfully time consuming and difficult, and most people don't do it because they don't have the time to do it.
I like to say, think smoke alarm versus arson in investigator. Try to implement technologies that are going to get the right information to the right people in the fastest manner possible versus waiting until something has already failed and trying to figure out, why it burned down and how much it's going to cost to repair the damage. It's always a better way to go.
Right. Jerry, I think this was an arbitrary number, but maybe you can expand on this. What goes into the $100,000 cost for adequate food safety and quality resources in your example?
Yeah, and I want to emphasize that there's just a model, is an example. It made certain assumptions. The $100,000 was just an arbitrary number that's picked. Some companies spend more. But say I'll answer the question from saying, answering the question this way. If you're looking at establishing an effective food safety and quality preventive program, first and foremost, you want to have people who are capable and able in both food safety and in quality. And when you look at food safety, if you're doing thermal processing, you want to have a good thermal processor. If you're in dry blend, you want to have someone who understands good sanitation and good dry blending. So you start with the good, knowledgeable people. Then you want to make sure, because they have good knowledge and experience, they can then write the policies, the programs, the requirements that will, that will help mitigate any of those issues. And then you'll be able to tie it with how do you capture data, how do you analyze data, how do you disseminate data. So $100,000 was just an arbitrary number. It all depends on the size of your operations and what's needed within your operations. So you want to start by looking first and foremost what's required from operations as to just the number. If your company just say, okay, this year I'll give you X number of dollars, then fit the most critical elements with those dollars and keep on making the case for additional resources.
Okay. Now you've gotten the industry's attention on the issues of the cost of nonconformance. Now, if a company has not tracked the cost of nonconformance, how does a company justify the new technology? In other words, the chicken and the egg. How do you bring this into a way of thinking into a company that historically has not looked at this in the past?
Pat, go first on this one.
Barbara, sure.
Barbara.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that, at least in my experience, if you try to sell new technology based on compliance alone, you may not always have the best of luck. I compare this to people think I've been burglarized a lot. I'm using all of these alarm situations, but we've all seen the commercials for the burglar alarms, and and the whole idea of these TV commercials is don't wait until after you get broken into. The reality of the situation is 97% of all home security systems are purchased after something bad happens. So you don't want to go and try to sell new technology because it can prevent something bad from happening. I think you sell new technology again on the business case of it will save time. Time is money. You're paying for people's time, and FSQA folks are completely overwhelmed, and this can put some hours back on in their day to maybe do the things they're not. So it'll save on time and labor. Saves time, saves money, and it creates efficiencies. Those efficiencies that are tracked during production and outbound during the supply chain, with the ability, for example, to take a corrective action before non-compliant goods leave the building, is going to lead to conformity and compliance. So one of the things, we've got some offers to show you is, we can certainly help you with calculating that return on investment in those key areas that I provided. But, I think like all technology, the way to get buy-in for it is on cost savings and the efficiencies, and those efficiencies will in fact just help you be more compliant. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, what Bob was saying, then from the other side, if you set up your metrics, your KPIs across your governance program, your food safety program, your quality program, you set up appropriate KPIs and you capture your KPIs, and you have a failure. Let's say you have where a customer called up and say this product didn't perform or whatever happened and they have to return it. You capture dollars and then you use your fishbone diagram. For those of you who are familiar, you do your fishbone diagram, determine the root cause of the failure. You'll find that those root cause of failures are coming back to either a quality process or quality system that didn't work across the supply chain. You could then, to Patty's case, you could then use that case to start capturing the true cost where it belongs, establishing, putting your programs in place with your KPIs, and then having technology be there to capture real-time data for you. If you keep making products on the production line and you say, for example, 50% of the time you have a problem with viscosity that you have to adjust, well, it could be a result of specifications, probably validation wasn't appropriately done. It's resulting in a quality issue, or you having mold. It's water activity. It's a food safety issue. So is metrics. Developing KPIs, collecting your metrics, and then going back and doing your fishbone diagram, your failure mode effective analysis, and determining what's the source of the problem. I guarantee you that with the two approaches, you will be able to justify it, because by then you have the correct metrics. The technology will help you capture and analyze your data, do your correlation, give you your significance as to whether it's significant, statistically significant or not, and then make the case in capturing the dollars, because you'll know the true cost of your material wasted. You'll know the true cost of the manpower you had to use to make that material and that product, and on, and then you can show that that's the cost that's not going to the bottom line, and a percentage of that could then help you build the case. Mm-hmm. I hope between Patty and myself we have given you some ideas. Yeah, not Patty, I keep saying Patty. Barbara.
I know who you meant, Jerry. Yeah. I know that probably a lot of people, Rick, need to leave, but we still have questions. I think both Jay and I have. If you want to go through the offers and how people can follow up, we can stay on then for the rest
I agree with
you. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, being said that, I'd like to actually ask you both to just kind of talk a little bit about your generous offer to the folks here within this webinar. Barbara, you want to talk a little bit about what Safety Chain is offering?
Sure. We've got a tool that we've developed over quite a period of time in working with our customers that actually helps calculate the return on investment of our type of solution in the areas that I have discussed. So you'll get a form and also a follow-up email that you can ask and request this 30-minute ROI calculation. We'll go through some questions with you using your specific situation and provide you back with a fairly comprehensive ROI calculator based on your company's parameters. So that's one of the things that we're offering. And how about you, Jerry?
Yes, from my end, what we're offering is that for any company that's represented, so if there are 5 of you from one company, it's only a one-time shot, that we will work with you to look at what kind of KPIs you may want to set up. We may look with you to see where you are with regards to your governance program, give you a sense of what's missing, and also in what approach, given your company, what approach you can take to begin to capture true cost or quality. It's see from a blanket standpoint, because every organization is different, the business processes are different, so it's like a one-size-fits-all wouldn't work with us. So that you can, you have my email, you could email me. I'll get in communication with you together with my partner, and then we can establish a time to have a phone consultation about what. First, let us know where you are. What do you have, and what gaps do you see? we can begin to give you some suggestions as to how to go about capturing what you need to make a difference.
That's perfect, because one of the other questions is that, and I could see from some of the attendees who are coming from different segments of the industry, as you said, size doesn't fit all. We've got folks from a QA department of a quick service restaurant, retailers, beverage companies, manufacturers, suppliers. Each of them have aspects of food safety and quality assurance that they can see an ROI on, but how to calculate that is going to be different for each one of them.
Yeah.
So everyone, that both Barbara and Jerry's email addresses are on screen. And on that note, also, there was a question that was really specifically about the safety chain software, which I would urge the attendee just to reach out to Barbara individually on. And there were still a few more questions, if we've got the time, Patty, that I'd like to just kind of out in the open, if possible.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Maybe put up the information about the next webinar as well.
That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And as people are starting to log off, there are a couple of things going on in the future. One of which is there's another webinar coming up. It's complimentary in November. As you can tell by the title, Effective HACCP Programs for Today's Complex Supply Chains. Also, the free resource center on food safety tech that we work with Safety Chain on. There's a lot of really good information, and an archive of this webinar, along with other webinars that have been produced by Safety Chain, is at that resource center, so people can revisit this information. They can share these with their colleagues. It's a good place to get information from. And then lastly, both Barbara and Jerry will be speaking at our October conference coming up in Philadelphia, and there's a very interesting presentation that will be done near the end of the program on how to sell food safety up the corporate ladder and then back down the corporate ladder, and it helps folks figure out ways of actually getting food safety and quality assurance programs funded. So another plug. Couple questions before we sign off. Barbara, can you elaborate a little bit more on the ROI business case for food safety and quality assurance technologies, as we have had issues getting more budget for technology spending?
I think when I first started discussing technology, one of the things that I mentioned was a lot of the technologies that are in place today tend to be supply chain, manufacturing, distribution types of technologies. And for the most part, these are ERP solutions. So they took some time from your IT staff. They took some time from your FSQA staff for implementing, and they cost a lot of money to implement, and they cost a lot of money to maintain. I think that what you'll find with the solutions that are out there that are focused on food safety and quality, emerging top technologies, such as safety chain management, some of the track and trace solutions, just because of the nature of these, of having to get information up and down the supply chain in real time, these are cloud-based and highly secure cloud solutions. And with cloud-based solutions, there's no software to deploy, there's no hardware to deploy. Supplier adoption has been a problem in the past because it's expensive for suppliers. Most cloud solutions, there isn't any cost to suppliers. They can, send information on a smartphone or a tablet, again, in a cloud solution. So these are very, very cost-effective solutions, where certainly our experience with our customers has been hard dollar ROI in months, not years, which it takes with some of these more expensive systems. Doesn't mean that you don't need those other systems, but I think of those as sort of the supply chain-based technologies, and these are the ones that then can access information, be accessed at any time. So they're a lot more affordable with a much quicker ROI. And again, we can help calculate that.
Right. And then lastly, when it comes to time and labor savings, are you seeing that the trend is to use this as a way to cut back on staffing?
I have not seen that at all. Most of the FSQA folks that I talk to today have a saying that, thank God it's Friday. I only have 2 more days left to work this week. I think that people are just trying to put hours back into people's days so they can get to more important work, analyzing data versus entering data. So we haven't seen it as a way to reduce staff, but we have seen it as a way to get staff focused back on the things that they need to do versus, all of the manual processes today that are taking time without a lot of value add.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Great. All right, great. Well, listen, thank you both for what has turned out to be 2 great presentations and a nice, lively dialogue. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Patty.
Thanks, Rick, and Barbara and Jerry. And thank you to all the attendees for sending in your comments and your questions. We got a lot of positive feedback on today's event and a lot of great questions. We tried to get to as many as we could, and any unanswered questions we will get back to you in the next few days or so. And for information on how to obtain the bonuses that were talked about earlier, you can certainly reach out to Barbara and Jerry directly. We also will be sending you a follow-up email with information on how to take advantage of these offers. And as you leave this event today, there will be an exit survey, and one of the questions will enable you to check off if you would like to take advantage of one or both of these offers. And we will encourage you to check out foodsafetytech.com and click on the Resource Center. And we will also shortly be sending you some information about the November 1st webinar, which is the second in the series of webinars sponsored by Safety Chain Software. And also to attend the October conference, feel free to find out more information at foodsafetytech.com, the events section. And slides and a link to the archive of today's event will also be sent via email within the next few days, so you can listen again and share with your colleagues. That concludes today's event. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.